Toco T8 iron today, and it's a lot different than the old one. Now, they're both made in China, so that's unfortunate. That Toco making their irons in China, but I hate buying anything from China, just out of principle, but sometimes you shop and you don't find what you're looking for. But the price was good, and probably because it's made in China. But you see, the new Toco T8 has a much thicker sole plate. That's the one with the thicker sole plate. But now the older one has got a lot better finish on it out of the gate. And the grooves that distribute the wax were much deeper in the old one. Now this isn't toast yet. This one's still okay. But what happened is the cord, after using it for so many years here, inside there it arced out. The cord broke, and I pulled the iron apart, which is not designed to be pulled apart. And not that it still doesn't work, but what happened was I created some cracks here in the front when I pulled that final part apart. Trying to see there. And anyway, so there's a little, when I'm getting into some serious waxing, I think there's some wax that's going like down inside the iron there. So anyway, that's a little bit disconcerting at a point. So anyway, the deal here is what I wanted to talk about is tuning your waxing iron. So the new T8, I already did a little bit of tuning on this. It comes with the same grooves, but the grooves are much shallower. And I noticed just looking with the eyeball that I felt like it was a long ways off flat. So what you want to do first thing when you get your iron is lay down a piece of sandpaper and make sure that your surface is, reasonably flat enough, etc. And I'm holding the camera in one hand, so I can't really show you, but you're going to take that puppy and put it down on that sandpaper. You're going to hold the sandpaper with one hand. You're going to start stroking that iron. So stand by a minute and I'll show you. I'm going to stroke it a little bit and show you what happened to this new one. Okay, so we stroked it on the sandpaper and we stroked it a little bit right and a little bit left. In other words, we went this way and we went that way, and I've also already priorly sanded paper over these grooves. So each of these grooves was traced with sandpaper to make sure that there was no burrs sticking out of these grooves. And then anyway, let me wipe some of the dust off of here and see what we see. Because this will show you, see, how not really super flat the iron is. Okay? And assuming that you're on a reasonably flat table. Now this didn't have anything to do with me really tilting the iron or anything, but even if it did, that's fine. But you see now, we see these areas here that really buffed off here. I mean, the sandpaper did a lot of work here. Okay? And over here as well did a lot of work. On this corner did a lot of work, and this corner did a lot of work. So what it's telling me is the iron is actually quite a ways off of being flat. Okay? So what I'll do is I'll put it down and I'll work it some more. And what I'm hoping to get, and now you don't have to totally get there, but you kind of want to see that sandpaper affect the entire thing, at least to some degree. That is if you want it super flat, okay? And anyway, don't want to get into all the iron shape deal and all that stuff, but, it doesn't have to be convex necessarily, but at least you want it to be freaking flat. You don't want to be ironing your ski and have this very outside portion here, or this portion here, or this portion down here, or this portion here, being like protruding or way out higher, see? I mean, that's great. Some wax will develop in here, and it'll float, and your iron will float over the wax, etc. But when you're getting into these high-end waxes where you crayon layer over your base prep, or, your prep wax, in other words, your ski's already really waxed, but you want to put on some of those super expensive waxes, you only rub a little bit of those on there and then iron them on. And so you really, you do want that iron to be, pretty doggone flat. So I've been real happy with this old Toco, and I'm not throwing it away because she's still working. But we'll sand a little bit more on this and see what happens. Stand by. So anyway, the main theme of this video is tune your wax and iron, help to flatten it out better than it comes from China, okay? And again, then when you have one with these grooves, you want to sand, you know, like kind of like stick your fingernail or your finger in there and sand over each of these grooves as well. Okay, so we can see now that the iron has been worked like I showed you. Stand by. Okay, well, I've worked the iron over a bit more, and I want to show you. It's still a long ways from perfect. And, you know, okay, so let's say it doesn't have to be perfect, but let's show you something. You take your true bar just like you would with your ski. And I don't know how that's going to work. I always tell you guys this because I have no idea how it's going to look in the video, but let's see if we can get the proper focus. And we can see with the true bar, hopefully, maybe you can't. But what I'm seeing right now is I got a lot of edge high and a lot of center. So this is the opposite of flat. It's railed. And then again, I'm seeing the same thing. So we still got a bit of sanding to go. However, before I started, these spots that sanded down were even higher. And then you can check it again this way as well. Of course, there's no backlight here, so you're not really going to see. No, we're not going to see here how flat it is. But anyway, you get the idea. So you can check that iron with your true bar when you get that new iron and start working on it. So obviously this one has a lot more work to do. We'll keep sanding and sanding until we get that sucker tuned down to where she's much flatter, and that is going to be good. So there it is. Even if your base ain't perfectly flat, let's say you're a little high center in the base, well, it doesn't matter anyway. You want that iron freaking flat. I mean, the flatter the better, baby. At least that way you can tell when you're ironing your wax what in the hell you're doing and what you're not doing. You know, it all makes a big difference. So tuning the ski iron. You're going to sand that puppy down. You're going to work it. Check it with the true bar. Make sure she be good and flat. And round off these little edges, you know. Make sure there's no burrs. You know, anyway, there it is. Just like the base of your skis and your edges. You want that frickin' bugger smooth and flat. So, okay, there we go. Okay, well, I continued to work it over. And I'm going to tell you, excuse me, probably about at least 20 minutes right now on 100 and then switching to 150 now. It's just fine to have a lot of scratchy structure on your iron. That just kind of helps move that wax around and breaks the suction. It's kind of like it does on your ski base. I mean, you know, your iron doesn't have to be, it's not about smooth, but it's about flat. So, yeah, you do want smooth. You don't want burrs. You don't want burrs, but you want to flatten that puppy out when you get one of these Chinese irons. It ain't flat. Okay, so I think if the light's right, you can kind of see now where it really changed. Anyway, you see especially all around the outsides where it really buffed a lot of material off. Now, I'll show you the true bar. Is it perfect? No, not perfect, but it was really edge high, and it's a hell of a lot better than it was before. So, and with the little cracks in it, you know, that move the wax, you're gonna see those the light shining through that, you know. Anyway, okay, but we're not edge high now. Okay, and anyway, she much better. She much better. Is it absolutely no, but she's pretty damn close, and a hell of a lot better than she was. And I can always come back and sand more. But there it is. Okay, so you know, tune your frickin' waxing irons. Do not use a home iron when you're waxing your skis. Okay, this Chinese Toko iron cost me $70. And what's a pair of skis cost? So don't use frickin' an old steam iron you bought, you know, whatever. Don't cheapskate out on this point, folks. Get an actual waxing iron that has a sole plate, that is an actual ski waxing iron, and get one of those and then tune it up. Make sure she's tuned. Okay, catch me all a while ago.